A small ship moved through the dark space between stars. Its name was Earth's Voice, and it carried the hopes of an entire world. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the screens that showed empty space ahead. But he knew they were not alone out here. 3 years of war had changed everything. The Zephyrian Alliance had struck first, attacking human colonies without warning. Millions had died in those early battles. Earth had fought back, but the cost was terrible. Now, both sides were tired of the killing. "Captain, we're getting close," said Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's diplomatic officer, a calm woman who had seen too much death during the war. Her job was to help make peace, but peace seemed like a dream these days. Jake nodded and looked at the main screen. Soon they would see the Zephyrian homeworld. It was a risk coming here. The aliens might shoot first and ask questions later. But Earth had to try one more time. Got behind him. Ben Carter worked at the communication station. He was young, maybe too young for this mission. But he was the best at his job. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, checking all the systems. They would need perfect communications for what came next. "How long until we reach their space?" Jake asked. 2 hours, sir," Amy replied. "The ambassador wants to speak with you before we arrive." Jake walked to the small room where Ambassador Lisa Thompson waited. She was Earth's best negotiator, a woman who had solved problems that others said were impossible. If anyone could make peace with the Zephyrians, it was her. "Captain," Lisa said as he entered. She looked tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "Are you ready for this? Are any of us ready?" Jake asked. He sat down across from her. "Tell me again what we're offering them." Lisa touched a small device on the table. A blue light appeared, showing the image of a planet. "This is our gift," she said. "Complete terraforming technology. We can teach them how to fix their dying worlds." Jake stared at the image. The technology was worth more than entire star systems. Earth scientists had worked for decades to develop it. "And you think they'll want it? Their planets are dying." "Captain, their crops are failing. Their people are hungry. This technology could save their entire species." Lisa's voice was firm. "It's everything they need to survive. And all we want in return is peace. Yes, no more war. No more killing. We can share the galaxy." She turned off the device. "This is humanity's olive branch. If they reject this, then we know they only want to fight." Jake left the room and returned to the bridge. The next hour passed slowly. Finally, Amy called out, "Captain, we're entering Zephyrian space." The main screen changed. Instead of empty space, they could see the enemy's star system. There were 8 planets orbiting a yellow sun. The 3rd planet was their homeworld, where billions of Zephyrians lived. But something was wrong. "Ben, what are you seeing on sensors?" Jake asked. The young man's face went pale. "Captain, there are ships everywhere. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands." Amy looked at her screen and gasped. "They're not just sitting there. They're moving. All of them are heading toward the edge of the system." Jake felt his heart sink. The Zephyrian fleet was getting ready to attack. This wasn't a defensive position. This was an invasion force preparing to strike at Earth's colonies. "They're planning something big," Amy said quietly. "This looks like their entire military." Lisa appeared on the bridge. She had been listening to their communications. "We have to try anyway," she said. "This might be our last chance to stop them." Jake nodded. "Ben, open all communication channels. Send our diplomatic codes." "Yes, sir." Ben's hands moved over his controls, broadcasting on all frequencies now. The message went out into space. It identified the Earth's Voice as a diplomatic vessel. It carried Lisa's credentials as Earth's official ambassador. It requested safe passage and permission to land on the Zephyrian homeworld. They waited. Minutes passed with no answer. Still nothing, Captain, Ben reported. Keep trying, Jake ordered. Maybe they need time to make a decision. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. The Zephyrian fleet continued to move. Their ships were massive, built for war, not defense. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Captain, Amy said, her voice tight with worry, I'm reading their fleet composition. These aren't patrol ships. They're invasion vessels. They have troop, transports, supply ships, everything they need for a long campaign. Lisa stepped forward. How long would it take them to reach Earth's outer colonies? Amy checked her calculations. At their current speed, maybe 2 weeks. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. While Earth was trying to make peace, the Zephyrians were preparing for their final attack. They wanted to end the war by destroying humanity completely. Ben, are we getting any response at all? Jake asked. Nothing, sir. They're not even acknowledging our signals. Lisa moved to the communication station. Let me try. She activated the system and spoke clearly. This is Ambassador Lisa Thompson. Of Earth, I carry a gift from humanity to the Zephyrian people. We offer you the technology to save your dying worlds. All we ask is peace between our species. Her message joined the others, traveling through space toward the alien fleet. Still no answer came back. Jake watched the enemy ships on the screen. They moved like predators, confident and deadly. 3 years of war had taught him to read alien formations. This wasn't the movement of a species that wanted peace. They're not going to answer, he said finally. We have to keep trying, Lisa insisted. Maybe their leaders need time to discuss it. But even as she spoke, the Zephyrian ships began to change course. They were no longer heading for the edge of the system. They were turning toward the small human vessel. Amy's warning came too late. Captain, multiple contacts approaching fast. The war was about to begin again, and Earth's last. Messenger was flying straight into the enemy's guns. The space around the Earth's voice suddenly filled with enemy ships. They appeared from nowhere, like ghosts becoming real. One moment the human vessel was alone. The next it was surrounded by massive Zephyrian warships. Jake Morrison felt his blood turn cold. How did they get so close without our sensors detecting them? Stealth technology, Amy said, her voice shaking. They were hiding, waiting for us. The alien ships were huge, each one 10 times larger than the small diplomatic vessel. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons. Red lights pulsed along their sides like angry eyes. Jake counted at least 20 of them, forming a perfect circle around his ship. An emergency transmission to Earth, Jake ordered. Tell them what's happening here. A young communications officer tried to send the message, but nothing happened. Captain, they're jamming us. I can't get through. Before Jake could respond, the main screen flickered. An alien face appeared, filling the display. It was Admiral Kane, the Zephyrian fleet commander. His skin was gray and scaled like a snake. His yellow eyes showed no emotion except disgust. Human. Vessel. Kane spoke in perfect English. His voice was cold and hard. You have entered sacred space. You carry lies and poison. Lisa stepped forward quickly. Admiral Kane, I am Ambassador Lisa Thompson. I represent Earth and all humanity. We come in peace. We offer your people a great gift. Kane's eyes narrowed. Your words are poison. Your species is a plague. We know what you really want. Please, listen to me, Lisa said, her voice calm but urgent. Your worlds are dying. We have the technology to save them. We can restore your planets, bring back your forests, heal your oceans. All we ask is peace between our peoples. Lies, Kane said simply. You want to weaken us. You want us to depend on your technology so you can control us later. Jake stepped beside Lisa. Admiral, we're offering this freely. No conditions, no control. Just peace. Kane's expression did not change. Your species talks of peace while building weapons. You speak of friendship while planning war. We have seen your true nature. That's not true, Lisa said. We only fight because you attacked us first. We want this war to end. The war will end, Kane replied, when your species no longer exists. He paused, then spoke again. This ends now. The screen went black. Captain, they're powering weapons, Amy reported, her voice tight with fear. Jake hit the alarm button. Throughout the small ship, warning. Lights flashed. All hands, prepare for emergency jump. Ben, try to boost our signal. Earth needs to know what happened here. Ben's fingers flew over his controls. I'm trying, sir, but their jamming is too strong. The first energy blast hit the Earth's voice like a giant hammer. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered and sparked. Amy was thrown from her chair. Shields. At 60%, she reported, pulling herself back up. Can we run? Jake asked. Their ships are faster, Amy said, checking her instruments. And there are too many of them. Another blast hit them. This time, the lights went out completely for a few seconds. When they came back on, smoke was filling the bridge. Lisa grabbed Ben's arm. Can you record a message? Something we can send. To Earth? Maybe, Ben said. If I can find a gap in their jamming. Do it, Jake ordered. Lisa, make it quick. Lisa activated the recording system. She spoke fast but clearly. This is Ambassador Lisa Thompson aboard the Earth's Voice. We offered the Zephyrians our terraforming technology as a gift of peace. They rejected it. They attacked us without warning. Tell Earth we tried. Tell them we offered everything we had. A third blast rocked the ship. This time something exploded behind them. Jake smelled burning metal and chemicals. Hull breach on Deck 3, Amy reported. We're losing atmosphere. Ben, did you get the message out? Jake asked. I'm trying, Ben said. Sweat ran down his face as he worked. There, I found a small gap. Sending now. The transmission lasted only 3 seconds before the Zephyrians. Cut it off. Jake hoped it was enough. The enemy ships moved closer. They were like sharks circling wounded prey. Their weapons charged again, building up energy for the final attack. Lisa looked around the bridge at her friends. These people had risked everything for peace. They had believed in her mission. Now they were all going to die because the Zephyrians chose war over hope. I want to record one more message, she said quietly. Jake nodded. He understood. This message was not for Earth. It was for history. Lisa activated her personal recorder. My name is Lisa Thompson. I was Earth's ambassador to the Zephyrian Alliance. We came here offering the greatest gift our species could give. Technology that could save their dying worlds. Food for their hungry people. Hope for their future. The ship shook again as more weapons fire hit them. Sparks flew from damaged systems. They chose to kill the messenger instead of hearing the message, Lisa continued. They rejected peace and chose war. We tried to save them from themselves, but they would not listen. She paused as another explosion rocked the ship. Amy called out that their shields were failing. Tell them we tried, Lisa said into the recorder. Tell them we offered everything, and tell them ... She looked at the screen, showing the enemy ships preparing their final attack. Tell them we won't offer again. The recording ended just as the Zephyrian weapons fired together. 20 massive energy beams struck the small human ship at the same moment. The Earth's Voice came apart like paper in a fire. Jake Morrison died at his post, still trying to save his crew. Amy Rodriguez died, reaching for the emergency controls. Ben Carter died with his hands on the communication system, trying to send one last message home. Lisa Thompson died holding her recorder, her final words traveling through space toward Earth. The explosion was brief but bright. For a few seconds, it lit up the dark space between the worlds. Then it faded, leaving only scattered debris and the silence of the void. Admiral Kane watched from his bridge as the human ship disappeared. His officers cheered, but he remained silent. He had just killed Earth's messenger. He had rejected their offer of peace, but he did not know that this single act would bring consequences beyond his worst nightmares. He did not know that humanity's greatest weakness was also their greatest strength. They always tried peace first. But when peace was rejected, when their messengers were murdered, humanity had other ways to communicate. The war was about to change in ways the Zephyrians could never imagine. Admiral Chris Watson sat in the War Council room deep under the surface of Earth. The walls were thick metal, built to survive even nuclear war. Around the large table sat the most powerful people in human space. They had been waiting for 3 hours. The message from the Earth's voice had arrived in pieces. Most of it was damaged by Zephyrian jamming, but they heard enough. Lisa Thompson was dead. The peace mission had failed. The aliens had chosen war. Play it again, Watson said quietly. The technician pressed a button. Lisa's voice filled the room, broken and full of static. This is Ambassador Lisa Thompson. We offered the Zephyrians our terraforming technology. They rejected it. They attacked us without warning. Tell Earth we tried. Tell them we offered everything. Then came her final message, clearer because it was recorded later. Tell them we tried. Tell them we offered everything. And tell them we won't offer again. The room fell silent. President Nina Hayes sat at the head of the table. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were clenched into fists. She had sent Lisa on that mission. She had hoped for peace. How long ago did this happen? She asked. 6 hours, Watson replied. The message took time to reach us through their jamming. Doctor. Ryan Foster cleared his throat. He was a thin man with gray hair, the head of Earth's military research division. Madam President, I think it's time. President Hayes looked around the table. General Lucy Barnes nodded slowly. She commanded Earth's ground forces, or what the aliens thought were Earth's ground forces. Colonel Tom Bradley, head of fleet operations, also nodded. Very well, the president said. Dr. Foster, activate Project Prometheus. Foster stood up and walked to a wall panel. He placed his hand on a scanner. A red light turned green. Deep in the Earth, computers began to wake up. Signals went out to hidden bases across the solar system. Madam President, General Barnes said, should I recall our forces from the outer colonies? No, Hayes replied firmly. Let the aliens think. They're winning. Let them think our colonies are all we have. Watson activated a large screen on the wall. It showed a map of human space. Red dots marked the colonies under attack. The Zephyrians had been hitting them for months, slowly pushing toward Earth. They think we're weak, Watson said. They think we're desperate. They think the colonies are our main defense. But they're not, Foster added with a small smile. The colonies were never meant to stop them. They were meant to buy us time. President Hayes stood up. Gentlemen, ladies, for 3 years we have let the galaxy think we were just defending ourselves. We let them believe we were ordinary. We let them think we were weak. She pressed a button on the table. The screen changed. Now it showed different dots, blue ones, scattered throughout the solar system. There were hundreds of them. What they don't know, the president continued, is that while they were attacking our colonies, we were building our real military. Hidden shipyards, secret bases, weapons they can't imagine. Foster took control of the screen. Every asteroid base they ignored. Every moon they thought was empty. Every dark spot in space they never bothered to check. The blue dots began to glow brighter. "We've been building an armada." Watson leaned forward. "How many ships, Doctor?" "The exact number is classified," Foster replied. "But let me put it this way. The Zephyrians think they destroyed 20% of our fleet when they took the colonies. They actually destroyed about 2%. General Barnes smiled grimly. "We've been pretending to be victims while we built the largest military force in human history." The president activated another screen. This one showed technical drawings of ships unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They were sleek and deadly, built with technology reverse engineered from captured Zephyrian equipment and improved far beyond the original. "While they thought we were just defending ourselves," Hayes said, "our scientists have been studying every piece of their technology we could capture. Every battle taught us something new. Every defeat made us stronger." Dr. Foster nodded. "We know their shields, their weapons, their tactics. We've designed our ships specifically to counter everything they have. But why keep it secret?" asked Colonel Bradley. "Why not use this fleet earlier?" "Because," Watson answered, "we hoped we wouldn't have to. We hoped Lisa could make peace. We hoped they would accept our gift and end this war." The president's voice grew hard. "We gave them every chance. We offered them our greatest technology. We sent our best diplomat. We tried to save their dying worlds." "And they murdered her?" Foster said quietly. "Yes," Hayes replied. "They silenced our messenger. That was their choice. Now they'll learn what happens when humanity stops asking nicely." General Barnes stood up. "What are your orders, Madam President?" Hayes looked around the room at her advisors. These people had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They had built weapons in secret. They had trained soldiers in hidden bases. They had created a war machine while pretending to be victims. "Send the signal," she said. "Activate all hidden fleets. Begin Operation Final Warning." Foster pressed several buttons on his control panel. Across the solar system, signals reached sleeping bases. Ship engines that had been cold for months began to warm up. Weapons systems came online. Crews that had trained in secret for years prepared for their first real battle. "How long until our forces are ready?" Watson asked. "The first wave can launch in 6 hours," Barnes replied. "Full deployment in 12 hours. The president nodded. "And the Zephyrian fleet?" "Still moving toward our outer colonies," Watson said. "They think they're about to finish us off." "Let them come," Hayes said coldly. "Let them think they've won. When they reach our last defenses, they'll get the surprise of their lives." Dr. Foster activated one more screen. This one showed the true scope of humanity's hidden preparations. Not just ships, but weapons that bent the laws of physics. Armor that could survive a star's heat. Computers that thought faster than any. Alien mind. 3 years, Foster said. 3 years of pretending to be weak while we became the strongest force in this part of the galaxy. "But they don't know that yet," General Barnes added. "They still think we're desperate refugees fighting for survival." President Hayes walked to the large window that looked out over Earth's capital city. People went about their daily lives, not knowing that their world was about to unleash hell upon their enemies. "Contact all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Tell them the time for defense is over. Tell them Ambassador Thompson died, bringing us one last gift, the knowledge that our enemies can never be reasoned with." She turned back to face the room. "We offered them peace. We offered them our greatest technology. We tried to save them from themselves. They chose to murder our messenger instead." The president's voice grew quiet but deadly. "So be it. They want to see what humanity is really capable of. They're about to find out Watson began giving orders to his staff. The hidden fleets would move soon. The Zephyrians had no idea what was coming for them. Earth's real war was about to begin. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars ahead. His fleet of 500 ships moved through space like a river of death. Behind them lay the wreckage of human colonies. Ahead lay Earth itself, helpless and alone. How? Long until we reached their homeworld? He asked his second in command. 3 days, Admiral, the officer replied. Our scouts report no human ships in the outer system. They must have pulled everything back to defend Earth. Kane nodded with satisfaction. The humans were broken. Their last desperate peace mission had failed. Soon their species would be nothing but a memory. Sir, the communications officer called. Out. We're receiving a message from the advance fleet near Jupiter. Put it through, Kane ordered. The face of Commander Vex appeared on the screen. He looked excited. Admiral, we've found them. A small group of human ships hiding behind Jupiter's moons. Maybe 20 vessels. Destroy them, Kane said simply. Yes, sir. It should be easy. They look different from the ships we fought before, but they're still outnumbered 10-1. The transmission ended. Kane smiled. Soon even these last few human ships would be gone. Then nothing would stand between his fleet and Earth. But something felt wrong. 2 hours later, the communications officer spoke again. His voice was shaking. Admiral, we've lost contact with Commander Vex. What do you mean, lost contact? The entire advance fleet, sir. All 50 ships. They're just gone. Kane felt cold fingers touch his spine. Show me the last transmission. The screen flickered. Commander Vex appeared, but now his face showed terror instead of confidence. Behind him, his bridge was full of smoke and sparks. Admiral, these aren't the same humans we've been fighting. Their ships are faster than anything we've seen. There. Weapons cut through our shields like they're made of paper. They're not running away. They're hunting us. The transmission ended in static. Kane stared at the screen. 50 ships destroyed by 20 humans? It was impossible. Unless... Get me a full sensor sweep of this entire system, he ordered. Meanwhile, near Jupiter's orbit, Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the human destroyer Retribution. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had just finished destroying an entire Zephyrian advance fleet, and none of them looked worried. Damage report, Turner said. Minor shield fluctuations on decks 5 and 7, his weapons officer replied. Nothing serious, Turner nodded. The new human ships were built with 3 years of captured alien technology, improved and perfected. The Zephyrians had given them the blueprints for their own destruction. Captain, his communications officer said, Admiral Watson is requesting a report. The screen showed the command center deep under Earth's surface. Admiral Watson looked, pleased but not surprised. Good work, Captain, Watson said. How did our new ships perform? Better than expected, sir, Turner replied. Their weapons couldn't even scratch our new armor. And our speed advantage is incredible. We could run circles around them. Watson smiled. Excellent. Phase 2 begins now. Show them what we learned. While they thought we were weak. Back on Kane's flagship, the sensor reports were coming in. The young Zephyrian officer reading them looked confused and frightened. Admiral, there are human ships everywhere. Hundreds of them. They're coming out of asteroid belts, from behind moons, from deep space, where our sensors couldn't detect them. Kane grabbed the reports and read them himself. The numbers made no sense. According to these readings, there were more human ships in this system than the Zephyrians had in their entire fleet. This is impossible, he said. We destroyed most of their navy months ago. Sir, another officer called out. Incoming transmission from the human fleet. A human face appeared on the screen. It was Captain Sam Rodriguez of the battleship Final. Word. His voice was calm and cold. Admiral Kane, this is Captain Rodriguez. You seem surprised to see us. Kane found his voice. How many ships do you have? More than you, Rodriguez replied simply. But that's not the important question. The important question is, why did you kill our ambassador? She was trying to weaken us with lies, Kane said. Rodriguez shook his head. She was trying to save your species. The technology she offered could have restored your dying worlds. Instead, you chose to murder her. Your species is a plague, Kane said, repeating the words he had spoken before. You had to be stopped. Admiral, Rodriguez said quietly, you have no idea what you just started. For 3 years, you've been fighting our weakest ships, our oldest weapons, our defensive forces. You thought that was all we had. Kane felt fear growing in his chest. What are you saying? I'm saying you never fought our real military, Rodriguez continued. Every battle you won was against ships we wanted you to destroy. Every colony you took was one we let you have. We were buying time. Time for what? Time to study you. Time to learn your weaknesses. Time to build weapons specifically designed to destroy your fleet. Rodriguez paused. And time to give you every possible chance to choose peace. Kane looked at his sensor readings again. The human ships were moving into attack formation. But they moved wrong. They didn't fight like desperate defenders. They moved like hunters who had been watching their prey for a long time. You killed our messenger, Rodriguez said. That was your choice. Now you get to see what happens when humanity stops asking nicely. The transmission ended. On Earth, Admiral Watson watched the battle displays. Colonel Beth Morris stood beside him, along with Major Dan Kelly and the other military commanders. They had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. All ships report. Ready, Morris said. Begin the demonstration. Watson ordered Dot in space. The human fleet opened fire. But these weren't the desperate defensive shots the Zephyrians had seen before. These weapons had been built using alien technology and improved beyond recognition. Energy beams that could slice through any armor. Missiles that could track targets through multiple dimensions. Shields that made their ships nearly invincible. Kane watched in horror as his mighty warships were cut apart like toys. The humans weren't just winning. They were teaching a lesson. Retreat, he ordered. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The human ships were faster. They had been designed to hunt Zephyrian vessels. There was nowhere to run. Admiral, his communications officer said, we're receiving another transmission. This time, it was Admiral Watson himself, speaking from Earth's command center. Admiral Kane, my name is Admiral Watson. 3 years ago, your fleet attacked our colonies. We could have ended this war on the first day. We had the weapons. We had the ships. We had the technology. Kane stared at the human admiral. Then why didn't you? Because we believed in giving you a chance to be better, Watson replied. We thought maybe, if we showed restraint, you might choose peace over war. We thought maybe your species could learn. Kane watched another of his ships explode on the displays. We were wrong, Watson continued. You proved that when you murdered Ambassador Thompson. So now you get to learn what humans are really like. When we stop pretending to be weak. The battle was over in less than an hour. Of Kane's 500 ships, only 50 survived. They limped away towards Zephyrian space, carrying news that would terrify their entire species. Humanity wasn't the weak prey they had thought. Humanity was the apex predator, and they had just made it very, very angry. The Zephyrian High Council met in emergency session. Their great hall, built from black stone and gold, had witnessed 1,000 years of victories. Today, It echoed with the sound of fear. High Counselor Zara stood at the center of the room, her scaled hands shaking as she read the reports. Our entire invasion fleet has been destroyed. Admiral Kane escaped with only 50 ships out of 500. How is this possible? Asked another counselor. The humans were nearly beaten. We had them cornered. We were wrong, Zara replied. Everything we thought we knew about them was wrong. They weren't weak. They were hiding their true strength. The great doors of the hall opened. Admiral Kane walked in, his uniform torn and burned. His proud expression was gone, replaced by something the Zephyrians had never seen in their greatest military leader, terror. Report, Zara ordered. Kane's voice was barely a whisper. We never fought their real military. For 3 years, we were fighting their weakest ships, their oldest weapons. They let us win battles so we would think we were stronger. That's impossible. Another counselor said, we captured their colonies. We destroyed their fleets. They let us capture them, Kane said. They were buying time. Time to study us. Time to learn our weaknesses. Time to build weapons designed specifically to kill us. The counselors looked at each other in growing panic. Their mighty empire, which had conquered dozens of star systems, had been playing a game they didn't even know they were in. What do? We do? Zara asked. We surrender, Kane said simply. We beg for mercy. We hope they are more forgiving than we were. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Hayes stood in the same command center where she had ordered the activation of Project Prometheus. The screens around her showed the true scope of humanity's hidden fleet. Thousands of ships, all moving toward Zephyrian space. Madam President, Admiral Watson said, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different Zephyrian worlds. They're all asking for mercy. Hayes looked at the screen, showing Lisa Thompson's final message. The ambassador's face was frozen. In time, her last words still echoing in the president's mind. Tell them we won't offer again. No, Hayes said quietly. Ma'am? Watson asked. No mercy, the president repeated, her voice growing stronger. They had their chance for mercy. They killed it when they murdered our messenger. Dr. Foster stepped forward. Madam President, we could accept their surrender. The war would be over. Hayes turned to face him. The war was over the moment Lisa offered them our terraforming technology. They chose to continue it. Now they face the consequences. She activated the main communication system. Her voice would be broadcast to every human ship in the fleet and to every Zephyrian world that was listening. This is President Hayes of Earth. 3 years ago, the Zephyrian Alliance attacked our colonies without warning. We could have ended this war on the first day. We had the weapons. We chose restraint instead. The command center fell silent as she continued. We chose to give them time to see reason. We chose to offer them peace. We sent our best diplomat with our greatest gift, technology that could have saved their dying worlds. They murdered her for it. On the screen, the human fleet continued its advance toward Zephyrian space. These weren't the desperate defenders the aliens had been fighting. These were the ships of a species that had been pushed too far. Now they call for mercy, Hayes said. They ask for the compassion they showed our ambassador. They want the forgiveness. They denied our messenger. In the Zephyrian High Council chamber, the alien leaders listened to the human president's words with growing dread. We gave them every chance to choose peace, Hayes continued. We offered them our hand in friendship. We tried to save them from themselves. They chose war instead. Admiral Kane closed his eyes. He knew what was coming. So be it, the president said. They want to see what humanity is really capable of when we stop asking nicely. They're about to find out. The first human ships reached the outer Zephyrian world 6 hours later. But these weren't invasion fleets. They were carrying something else, Dr. Foster's modified terraforming technology. Captain Mark Johnson stood on the bridge of the science vessel Last Warning, watching the green planet below. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and white clouds. Soon it would be something else entirely. Begin the process, he ordered. The same technology that Lisa Thompson had died trying to give the Zephyrians as a gift now became their judgment. But instead of healing their dying worlds, it transformed them into something no Zephyrian could survive. The atmosphere changed. The oceans boiled away. The ground itself became poison to their species. Within hours, the planet that had been home to billions became a dead rock floating in space. Target complete, Johnson reported. Moving to the next world. Across Zephyrian space, the same scene played out on dozens of planets. The aliens had rejected humanity's gift of life, so now they received humanity's gift of death. High Counselor. Zara watched her homeworld die from the window of her evacuation ship. The planet where her species had evolved over millions of years was becoming uninhabitable in a matter of hours. Open a channel to the human fleet, she ordered desperately. The screen showed Captain Sam Rodriguez of the Final Word. His expression was calm, but final. Captain Rodriguez, please, Zara begged. We surrender. We'll do anything you want. Just stop this. Rodriguez looked at her with eyes that held no mercy. You had your chance to surrender 3 years ago. You had your chance for peace when Ambassador Thompson offered it. You chose to kill her instead. We made a mistake, Zara said, tears running down her scaled cheeks. We were wrong. Please, there are innocent people on these worlds. There were innocent people on our colonies too, Rodriguez replied. Did you show them mercy when you attacked without warning? Did you listen when they begged for their lives? Zara had no answer. You silenced our messenger, Rodriguez continued. That was your choice. Now you get to hear our final warning delivered in the only language your species understands. The transmission ended. President Hayes stood in the command center, watching the screens that showed the systematic destruction of the Zephyrian Empire. There was no satisfaction in her eyes, only the grim certainty of justice being served. Madam President, Admiral Watson said, we're receiving calls for help from other alien species. They're afraid we'll target them next. Hayes nodded. Open. A channel to the entire galaxy. When the connection was established, she spoke clearly and firmly. This is President Hayes of Earth. Let this be a lesson to all who would raise their hand against humanity. We come in peace. We offer friendship. We try diplomacy first, always. She paused, looking at the image of the dying Zephyrian worlds. But when you silence our messengers, when you murder those who come bearing gifts, when you reject peace and choose war, then you will learn what humans are really like when we stop asking nicely. The transmission ended. The galaxy listened in silence as the Zephyrian Empire ceased to exist. Humanity had delivered its final warning. The message was clear. Earth would always try peace first, but those who chose war would face consequences beyond their worst nightmares. Messenger had been silenced. The warning had been delivered. The galaxy would remember both.